Tell us about a challenging relationship you have managed. For this, there are lots of options. You could talk about a team member, a stakeholder, a partnership, a donor, or a supporter.
When I joined my current charity, a men's cancer charity, as corporate partnerships manager, I took over a portfolio of partnerships worth £650,000. As a national charity, my team looks after partnerships which are worth £150,000 in value or more, and our community team takes over anything less than that. One of the partnerships in my portfolio, a charity of the year with a leading building merchants, was underperforming. In its first year, it had raised £90,000 against a £150,000 income target. It was just about to enter its second year. I knew that the company had had a previous partnership with another charity and that that partnership had smashed its income target. I knew that there was bags of potential there, and I just needed to figure out what the problems were with the partnership that we had and how to fix them. They didn't belong with the community team because there was masses of potential. We just needed to get them raising their fundraising target of 150k. In order to do this, I set up a meeting with the head of CSR at the company, asking very open questions to understand what he thought the problems were with the relationship. I also had conversations with internal stakeholders. There were two main issues affecting the partnership. The first was that a charity champion who had helped us to win the partnership in the beginning had since left the organisation, meaning that we were attempting to try to engage a disparate workforce with little or no help internally. The second was a perceived lack of enthusiasm amongst the workforce, which meant that fundraising initiatives weren't being taken up in the volume that they needed to be. I put out a call via the company intranet for a new charity champion, and it turned out that one of their team had a really close connection to our cause via a direct family member. They are an amazing individual who's proved really instrumental in keeping enthusiasm up amongst the workforce and has really been instrumental in helping day-to-day motivation across the organisation. To engage the workforce in fundraising events, I spent time out in the stores in the regions, telling our charity's case for support and engaging the workforce in the wonderful work that our charity does. I managed to get regional fundraising managers to commit to fundraising days in store. Each fundraising manager agreed to dedicate one day every 6 months, so 2 per year, to really drive fundraising efforts for our cause. I also designed a fundraising competition which worked across stores and really appealed to the organisation's demographic, and implemented an award for the member of staff who raised the most money. We found a fun, creative and enthusiastic workforce who, with some direction from me, were able to really exceed their income targets. In the second year of their partnership, they raised £173,000 against their £150,000 target, and they've agreed to sign on with the charity for another year.
So I started in a new role, and it was a team that was underperforming and hadn't been managed for the previous 6 months. Targets were not being met, and one person in particular had missed every target that they'd been given. They were disengaged and they had really high levels of absenteeism. I sat down with that particular person and listened to them, what was working for them and what wasn't. During that meeting, we agreed to meet every week moving forwards, and through that process we set new targets for them, as well as ascertaining a weekly plan that they could work off. We continued to meet every week, and 3 months later they were achieving their new targets and the absenteeism had dropped. And so, to summarise, it was a case of listening to the person, sitting down with them and giving them that face time, and communicating very clear, actionable targets. And most importantly, following up.
In my last charity, where I was new business manager for a services-led children's charity, we were invited to pitch for a Charity of the Year partnership that also had strategic elements for centre parks. With 3 weeks to go until the proposed deadline, we received an email saying that it had been brought forward by a week. The total deadline for the proposal had been a month, so whilst we were some of the way there, there was still a lot of work to be done. As project manager for the pitch, I was ultimately responsible for getting the proposal in on time. I kept calm, sat down with the new deadline and worked backwards from the date that we'd been given. I put a plan together to make sure that we met the proposal deadline and we had some time to spare. The biggest hurdle we faced was getting all of the information internally that we needed from lots of different stakeholders. One of my main achievements to date in the role had been to cultivate really strong relationships internally with various different stakeholders. This meant that when the time came, Finance, programmes, admin, all of the different teams involved really understood the value of corporate partnerships and how transformational they can be to the organisation. This made asking for information much more straightforward, as everybody understood just how vital it was that we had all of the details we needed on time. I made sure to give everybody as much time as possible within the short time frame, making myself as available as I could to them so that they were put to as little trouble as possible in giving me the information that I needed. I managed to ensure that key conversations happened towards the end of the first week, which left the second week free for me to write the proposal and check any important information that I needed to. I had also brought the deadline forward a day in my diary, which meant that any last-minute disasters were mitigated against. This proved invaluable as the company wanted our proposal bound and there was a last-minute issue with the printers. Had I have not given that extra day, we would have had an absolute disaster, but everything went in on time. I'm pleased to say that the feedback that we received on the proposal was very complimentary, particularly within the tight deadline that we were given. We went on to win the partnership and the organisation still holds it today.